Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Awesome. I think a few folks are just grabbing coffees. We're going to get started, though. I'm watching time, and I want to be respectful. I know some people are here over the lunch hour as well. But I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you all so much for being here. For anyone that I haven't had the chance to meet myself yet, my name is Thomas LeVay, and I'm the Director of Strategic Programming here at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. And welcome to Small Business Week, presented by our Service Credit Union. We are so thrilled to have you here on day 4 of Small Business Week. It's been a jam-packed week of content. It's been just wonderful. I see some familiar faces, some new faces. We started with a full day of marketing on Monday. We had Minister Scow here in attendance, which was wonderful. Tuesday was all things government and advocacy based. Yesterday, Wednesday, was our legal and HR day, and today we are here to talk about tech and innovation. And we're starting this afternoon with just a fabulous panel that I'm so excited, and it is brought to us by Tier 3 IT Solutions. So just a massive thank you to Tier 3. Please join me in thanking them. I'm going to start with just some brief introductions for our panel that's sitting beside me, and then we're going to dive into things. I'll let them do a little bit more of some bios. But joining us today, we've got Solange Ganavan, who's the Industry Manager at the Industry Sandbox in AI Computing. Welcome, Solange. Yeah. Then we've got Steve Wilkingoff, who leads White Label Business Intelligence. Steve, thanks for being here as well. You can't clap for Solange and then not Steve now. Like, you can't already have a favorite panelist. Wait till the end for that. No, I'm kidding. Don't worry. Jesse Hill, who is the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions. Thank you, Jesse. And then we've got Jason Vance, who's the concept champion at Bubble Up Marketing. Jason, thanks for coming. So maybe what we'll do, I'm going to start with just asking you, and this wasn't in the prep, so I'm sorry to throw you off, but just some brief bios. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and the work that you're doing. And maybe Solange, we'll start with you, and then we'll just sort of for this one go down the row a little bit. If you want to tell us, then we'll get into some things.
Okay, so thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. So basically, as was mentioned, I am part of the Industry Sandbox and AI Computing at the University of Alberta. Basically, we provide virtual machines with GPU, CPU, and storage to help companies build AI product using a safe environment, which is really cheaper than the big hyperscalers. And we are really, really well positioned to help for the development phase. So everything which is pre-commercialization. That is what I'm doing. My background, if you notice my accent, I have a French accent. I come originally from Switzerland. I did my PhD there in particle physics. So yes, after that, I changed quite a bit. But during my career, I did a lot of AI on different projects from, physics, of course, medical, and, commercial. And so for this reason, after that now, I saw my bottleneck was to have the computing power I needed for doing my AI. For this reason now, I'm helping businesses having that computing power they need. So yeah, that's on me for a nutshell. So I will pass to the next. Do you have that? Okay, good.
Thanks, Solange. So literally a rocket scientist next to me. I'm not a rocket scientist. I have a company that does AI and automation for companies. Been doing that now for 15 years. I was a CPA and that wasn't nerdy enough, so I got into automation and programming. And really kind of, I'm the yin to Solange's yang. Instead of using or creating really fancy models, I just try to figure out how to use basic stuff in companies to make them run more efficiently. So that's less exciting, but still pretty cool in my book.
All right, my name is Jesse Hill, and I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions, and I've basically been in this business my whole life. So I'm second generation in the company. We're actually celebrating our 35th anniversary tonight. So I apologize, I will not be sticking around to sign autographs and have long conversations because I have to go do that. So I've been running this business since, the early 2000s. I've owned it for the last 10 years. And we help businesses manage technology in all aspects. So that is support, planning, cybersecurity, and now, of course, AI. And appreciate the other three hopping on the panel here and Tom putting it together for us now.
Thank you. And Jesse, I got off a flight at midnight to be here today. So I just want to say thank you so much, Jesse, for everything. We're excited to have you.
Well, and truth be told, I have to say thanks to Tom, because when we talked about planning this, Technology Day was supposed to be on Wednesday. And I said, hey, Tom, I know you're going to do it in government on Thursday, but how do you feel about switching them? And he actually did it. I was like, I thought the whole thing was dead in the water, but thank you for doing that. Yeah.
Happy to. Jason, please.
Yeah, my name is Jason Vance. I'm the president and concept champion for Bubble Up Marketing. We're a marketing agency. My career has been basically spanning IT and then tech and marketing for the last 25 years. And from Bubble Up Marketing standpoint, we move everything from strategy through to the tactical side of marketing. And yeah, we use AI in our own shop for random stuff.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm excited to hear more from all of you as we dive in. And we're going to get going with some questions. It's going to be a good, tight hour here. So let's jump in. Let's jump right in and start talking about some of the fundamentals when we think about AI. We're all hearing AI everywhere, and I think it's so fascinating to me how fast things are progressing. We hosted a session last year at Small Business Week, and it was sort of like, what is ChatGPT? Like that was, right, and now 1 year later, I'm just reflecting on how much more immersed I think all of us are in AI, and it's just fascinating. But for a small business owner in Edmonton, what does AI actually mean for your day-to-day operations? And can maybe each of you think of one concrete example of how AI is already touching small businesses in your respective areas? Maybe Jesse will go with you first.
Oh, okay, I was going to hand it to Steve, being the AI implementation guy. So just maybe I'll start off. First of all, part of the reason we have the four of us that we selected for the panel is that we all have very different kind of perspectives on AI. So the way that I see it, Solange, is she's like running the thing that builds, if you imagine AI as like a grocery store, like she builds the grocery stores. And then Steve is helping people like figure out how to take the ingredients in there and turn it into, you know, a meal that they can cook. And then Jason and I are probably more like in-home chefs, you know, helping them with the things that they picked out and how they're going to turn it into something for their family. So from my perspective, you know, one of the biggest things that we are seeing is, like you said, AI is this really broad term. And again, I apologize, I almost always use analogies for things, but you know, it's so broad that it's kind of like if I went home and said to my wife, I want to go travel. So well, what does that mean? Like, are we going to ride bicycles to Banff? Are we going to go on a cruise in the Caribbean? Are we gonna, you know, fly a Blue Origin spaceship to the edge of the atmosphere? Like, that's how broad that term is. And it's the same with AI. So Steve and I are actually collaborating right now, and we're working with some of our clients to take them through a project design. And really, I think, and Steve would know better than I will, but you have to be able to clearly define a part of your business where there's either inefficiency, it's redundant, it's mundane, it's incredibly, you know, detail orientated, and think about how you can streamline it. Most businesses right now, they're using AI from our perspective to scan emails, summarize documents, and you know, probably prepare responses to things.
Steve, what are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you as well.
Thanks. I'll give you maybe a concrete example. Any electricians or plumbers in the room or anything? All right, didn't think so, but wasn't sure. Plumbing service company that we've worked with, they use one software tool for capturing the tickets when their plumbing guys go out to fix and solve the issue in the field, note down what's required, and they bring that back, and then the admin people in the office enter that into QuickBooks and send the client the invoice. So previously, that was a job. You know, every morning one of the admins would copy stuff out of Procore, which, you know, the ticketing software, paste and reword it, because a lot of what the guys would write in the field when they were describing what the issue was with the plumbing wasn't client friendly. So it had to be reworded, some swear words taken out, literally sometimes. And so that whole process is now completely automated using, you know, AI automation. Copies the fields out of the tickets every morning, puts it into QuickBooks, sends the invoice to the client. So that's, to Jesse's point, a very simple, discrete, real-world issue or solving a problem that was a manual process that's now AI is solving that for them every day. And it turns out it was about 2 hours a day for the admin that they saved. So it compounds pretty quick.
That's massive efficiency gain. Jason, what about yourself as well? I'm sure you see some examples.
Yeah, I think, and I'll keep it kind of phase one, really basic.
Yeah.
We have a situation where we regularly summarize reports for clients, and they're coming. The data is coming from a variety of sources, and normally it would be a manual process. You'd put it into a slide deck and manually type in the information. And so at this point, using AI, we can just simply have the data sources feed into a slide deck automatically, and it summarizes all of this data for us. It takes probably 5 minutes to prepare for a quarterly business review that would have taken somebody typically 2.5 hours to script and come up with ahead of time. And so now, yeah, once we've got AI hooked into it, or even just creating a strategy, like taking a marketing strategy doc that's 25 pages, 30 pages, and summarizing it for a client, that in and of itself, with an automated slide deck on brand with that client, we're looking at maybe 5 to 7 minutes to take and summarize that information, which is phenomenal time savings on my end.
That's awesome. Solange, what about yourself? I know you have a different vantage point on this, but what is something maybe that you're seeing as well from the work that you do?
Sure. So the clients who are using our servers, they are basically the people who are building tools for all of us as businesses, right? And now we see a trend that any kind of AI product they are building is more niche. They go deep. They will be specialized. We were speaking about that earlier, just before the panel. It will be, for example, for taxpayers, right, to be able to fill taxes for you. Or it will be for legal documents for lawyers, right, who can auto-generate different contracts that you have that you can customize. So we see that, the general is covered by ChatGPT, right? I mean, that you can do pretty general work. But all our clients now are using proprietary data to train or refine existing model to make it extremely niche. So that means in the future, you will have someone specialized for this, purely legal, for example, someone specialized in taxes, someone specialized in deep marketing in a certain industry niche. That is where it's going. So ChatGPT will be always great for generalization somehow. I mean, it's not always generalizing well, unfortunately. For this reason, people are using proprietary data to refine those general models, which are not good enough, basically, right? So that's what we see happening.
That makes sense. It's so fascinating how quickly it's moving, and I think even just that move to specificity and the move away from there's just choice, lots of new options, lots of kind of shiny new exciting things to like what is an actual tangible product or a system that is going to help us do something very real in a specific way. Maybe Jason, I'll ask you a question. I know this kind of continues as well along, thinking of some examples, but is there something, maybe an AI tool or approach that you've seen that has really moved the needle for a business in a significant way versus just something that's maybe just something new or something that someone's just trying, and what should business owners really be paying attention to in that way?
The tools, you mentioned shiny object, like I call it shiny object syndrome, and I think the whole space is wrought with that right now. It's really easy as entrepreneurs, like who typically move pretty quick, to sign up for a half a dozen trials and realize 6 months later when their finance manager comes to them and says, oh, like, why are you spending $500 a month on AI tools that you don't use anymore, right? And so I've really focused my team on what are the current tools available to you and how to use them properly for your work, rather than trying to look for something new and shiny. So focus on, if you're a Google shop, use Gemini and whatever's in Google for you. Same thing with Microsoft, Copilot. Go deep with those tools first, because then there's going to be more coming up down in the later. So one example how we would use AI is very often we do competitive analysis for our clients. So some competitive research. Very often that was manual. Now I can meet with a client and I can say, okay, give me the 5 or 6 competitors that you feel are within your space. We'll write a prompt into one of the tools and say, I want you to review these websites. I want you to review their Google reviews. I want you to review their social media. I want you to pull out the communication points and the way that they communicate, the tone in which they communicate. And I want you to segment this in all these different competitors. And I'll have like a complete report for competitive analysis for our clients in a very efficient time manner. And that's a great way to have a look at your competitors and see what they're doing. Just use some AI tools and some prompts to get that for you.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, what an edge, right? That's fantastic. Jesse, what about yourself? I mean, you're in this similar space as well to Jason. What's something maybe that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper on what Solange was talking about, how we're getting more specific tools, right? It's kind of like if you have a Swiss Army knife, right? It does a lot of stuff, but it doesn't really do any of them that well. So, usually you also have, proper screwdrivers and proper knives and, all that kind of stuff. So the conference I was just away at was for legal software, a Canadian legal software, which is awesome, called Clio. And they announced that they raised, I think they raised $900 million in their Series F just about a year ago, which is the largest fundraise in Canadian tech history, which is awesome. And then they promptly spent $1 billion to buy a data set from a company called VLEX, that has accumulated 1 billion legal documents. And the thing that's really crazy to think about is this conference that I was at was all lawyers, and every single presentation is about how AI is going to accelerate their work. Lawyers charge by the hour. And they're saying, here's a thing that you used to spend 10 hours doing that now you can get, like Jason was saying, all of this competitive analysis done and legal precedents applied and rebuttals for everything in minutes. And every attendee that I asked, I said, well, how is this going to affect your business model? Because clients are probably going to be less enthused about paying for 10 hours of work when a robot has spit that information out. But that's the way that AI is going to be implemented, is that it'll take time for each of us in our own industries and verticals to see that become available, but somebody is doing it. And it, has repercussions. So, the important thing I think is, as business people, is that we want to try to find ways to leverage AI so that we can be, more accurate or efficient. Hopefully we're not going into it thinking we're going to replace a bunch of people with chat prompts.
I think it's about innovating, right? And I think you're so right, Jesse, thinking about what it's doing to the industry, because it's a massive disruption. And I think how do we get ahead of, and just outside, I know from some of our conversations that we've been had, nothing is it's not just about the technology. That's such a really small part of it, right? And thinking big on the industry. So that's fascinating. Steve, I want to go to you, kind of staying on these same lines. What are your thoughts? I'll let you.
I kind of think similarly. It's going to disrupt, change business models a lot, and to assume otherwise, I think, is being foolish as business owners. It is going to change your business, and so look for ways you can implement it, not to replace people, but to compete faster or compete more aggressively, and harness the tools. And it doesn't always have to be the perfect tool. Just use a tool and get going with it and start improving things.
Any thoughts? Maybe, and I'll ask it to the panel. Because I like this little. I don't want to call it an aside. This is great where we've kind of gone. Knowing that when we think of just sort of society, you think of our customer base. There's such a wide range of awareness and adoption and understanding and safety, and when people think about AI, right? Some people internally, they're excited, they get so thrilled. Some people are terrified, right? And so when you think about some of that industry shift, what are some things that you might think about, and maybe Jesse, Jason, maybe more for one of you to start, that you would advise a company when they're how are they going to navigate that with their customer base as they're starting to implement and develop some of these changes? It's a big question. It wasn't in the notes. I'm sorry. I'm way off script.
I think. Well, I'll take a stab at that. I think from a business model perspective and just the adoption, there is, across every organization, you're going to have your spectrum of people, from your excited first movers to, I'll call them the Luddites at the end, that are only going to do it if essentially forced, at the end. So don't force everybody en masse, start at the beginning. And I think it's really important to note that any AI tool is not simply, it amplifies current skill and experience. It does not replace. So for somebody to prompt, the one I used in regards to competitive analysis, that's all fine. It spits out a bunch of data. Now what? What do you do with that? So without the experience to go along with it, you still need that experience to interpret and hone and figure out, is it actually making sense? Is it hallucinating? Is it just trying to help me with random stuff? Or how do I refine this further? And it takes a human element to do that. Yeah. Do you want to expand on that, Jesse?
Or Steve,
Yeah, it's just your question and then Jason's comment made me think, clearly AI is a technology, but I think what doesn't get thought about enough, and you raised it, Thomas, where a lot of people are scared, or the Luddites, as Jason called them. It's as much a human and a change management issue, not to use well-worn phraseology, as it is a technical process of becoming more AI-driven in a company, and how you use AI, how you make your team feel comfortable, how you make it okay for them to try and fail so they don't feel stupid, they don't feel like they're going to be replaced. And I think that actually probably doesn't get spoken about enough, and it needs to happen along with any AI and automation efforts whatsoever.
We've gone through so many shifts in technologies. I mean, you go back and think about, plowing fields with ox to the first person who got a tractor.
Did anyone have that on their AI panel bingo card? I don't know.
Right, like I'm sure back then everybody was afraid that the machines were going to take all the jobs. Well, they all shifted, right? They went into other things. They became mechanics. They learned all of those new skills and trades. The challenge I think that AI presents is that it's happening at a pace that we've never seen before. We all, in the time that we're sitting on this panel, we could leave and one of the big players may have released a new feature, a new update, a new model that completely transforms what is possible today. And it's, again, one of the challenges we think about, back in the mid-90s when most businesses were just getting online. Our first web pages were all terrible, right? They didn't look good, they didn't work well, and they lasted 2 years until, it had changed and we went, okay, we have to redo this now and redo it. And many businesses went through, 3, 5, 10 different versions in that first, 10 or 15 years. Well, in AI, I mean, you could have built out an entire project design 3 months ago and be looking at it today and going, it's obsolete. We need to rip and replace, or we need to think about using a different platform or approach to it. So that's the thing that I think is probably most scary about AI, is just the speed that it's happening. And I mean, quite frankly, we're all just along for the ride.
Yeah.
I mean, Solange is the only one on the panel that's actually, in control of what's happening in her world.
Save us, Solange. Yeah. Solange, take the wheel. Is that like the tagline? That's good. Yeah. It's funny.
I wish. I wish, you see. No, seriously, what is driving everything, right? It's the hyperscalers, right? The hyperscalers, the Google of the world, the Meta of the world, and the Microsoft of the world. Okay, because at the end of the day, it's really people who are able to amass enough computing power to be able to do fundamental models like the ChatGPT of the world. Of course, OpenAI is one of them, but they are heavily working with Microsoft for the computing power as well. So yeah, and at the end of the day, all that comes back to energy, because you need a tremendous amount of energy and a tremendous amount of water to cool down those GPUs. So all those hyperscalers, they will become a power plant. They will have to become energy generators as well, not only doing it, because at the end, AI, you need energy, you need cooling. So those companies will start to become power plants, basically, right? That is already happening heavily. So what I want to explain with that is that, yes, it's only the hyperscalers which are basically leading how we consume, and they dictate to us almost how we consume. Which is scary, that's for sure, because it's purely marketing at this point, right? Basically, when you look at social media, and they said, oh, everything, Hollywood will be replaced by LLM, No, they will do videos, and those videos you see, they are perfect. You say, oh yeah, no, Hollywood is dead. The business is dead. But what they don't tell you is that you have a real videographer who worked after the output of the LLM to make it wonderful. Because the output of the LLM itself is not good. It's absolutely not good. And I will say the output of LLMs, it's a nice shitty first draft. You know, that is what it is. And you need work to make it suddenly usable, really, for anything, any of marketing, name it, right? So it's great to shortcut the amount of time for doing prototyping. That's for sure. It's a great tool, right? So instead of doing things for 10 hours, in 20 minutes you have done a first draft. And that's great because that speed up creativity and speed up also the way that we can iterate. So that is really powerful tools, right? We should not discount that, and we should definitely tap into those new resources. The only problem is that where you want to have a finished product, then you need the skill set, right? In the case of Hollywood, you need a real videographer who will work on making this video look beautiful. But that doesn't come out from the get-go out of those AI tools, and they don't tell you that. It's because they want you to buy the product.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be careful about the hype, because the hype is real.
Damn marketers.
Watch out for that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I wanna kind of, this is great, and I think, we could move in a million directions, but I want to kind of get back to something, Steve, you touched on, which was data, because I think there's something so relevant too for business owners in the room right now, when they think about data that you have, and I'm gonna give you a plug. You've reduced data barriers for CFOs that you've worked with by 50%, and so how is AI really changing the game for business intelligence and decision making, and what can maybe some small business owners do right now with data that wasn't possible even 2 years ago when it comes to AI?
I would say there's a couple things. One, pretty much now, like it's never been before, even 3 years ago, if you have data in your organization, it's accessible to AI. It used to be boxes of PDFs were dead documents. Now that's not a problem. You can get that data. Whatever different software tools you have, you can get that data. And along with that, I think a lot of other tools and just the way AI works, you can integrate that now with your reporting like you never could before, which is fantastic. Along with that comes a bit of the other side of the knife, in that you have to be extra careful and on guard now when you're using AI on your own data in particular. And Solange touched on it, when she talked about the first draft of an LLM being, not 100% accurate or not the best. That's equally important when you're pulling it on your own data, because how you have to reason through and think, well, how will I know if it's incorrect, right? It can look at all your data and give you an answer that's super convincing, and it looks right. And maybe looks right is okay for the use case you're using it for. In other cases, you need some different ways of checking it, back checking it, and making sure the precision is there, and don't get caught up in the hype. Like Solange said, the hype is real. It's so easy to be convinced, and because AI is smart, it sounds smart, but that doesn't mean it's correct all the time. And I think we really have to be on guard of that.
Appreciate that. Anything yeah, please.
Yeah, I'll jump on that just a little bit. Just to go super old school on you, there used to be this career called a records manager. That's still relevant, because if you put AI on top of a mess, you just get another mess. And so if you have, it's faster. Yeah. So if you have iterations upon iterations of quotes and price lists and random stuff, and then you say, oh yeah, I just need a quote for this thing, can you please spit it out? And it does, and it looks great. Wow, that's fantastic. You just realize you used 1992 pricing for the widget. You might not pick up on that. And there's been legit cases of businesses that have lost significant funds by randomly producing a quote that had incorrect information from old data that was not expunged and gotten rid of. And so it's very important to go through, and I think we all just probably cringe a little bit when we think about this, like what your Google Drive looks like or whatever. It's time to clean up the data if you really want to rely on the next level of AI and getting good information from it.
Which of course then leads into security around your data. Steve and I were sharing stories of, both of us chatting with clients and prospects about how they're using AI, and hearing stories. I'll give an example of a gentleman who owns a fairly good-sized construction firm in the city, and he was telling me about how they've started using AI to record and transcribe their board meetings. So in-person board meetings, not on Microsoft Teams or Zoom, where it's doing it automatically. And he took this board meeting, a 4.5-hour board meeting, dropped it all into ChatGPT, let it transcribe it, summarize it, action points, reports. Like, it's fantastic, right? Except that he hasn't taken any time to look at the data security settings on it. And by default, ChatGPT is going to now consume that data and use it to train the output for everybody who comes after. And that means that he has essentially just manufactured his own data breach. But he doesn't know it, right? Because these companies, the best AI model is the one with the most data, right? The most data, the most processing power. And so they're trying to collect as much as they can. And the knock-on, the challenge with it is, if you went into that organization and said, well, how are you responding to RFPs? And they'd say, oh yeah, we have an estimating team that they get the RFP, they review it, they do all their stuff. Well, talk to them, they're probably going and dropping the RFP into ChatGPT, saying, here's our last 3 that we won, help me build a response to this one. Well, again, you've just given it your competitive information.
Yeah.
And the challenge for businesses and business leaders is that if you've kind of turned a blind eye to policy and education of your staff, I would bet anybody in this room, pick a number, your staff are already sharing your information with these language models, and they don't even know it, and you haven't told them, right? So it really falls upon owners and business leaders to think about how they're managing those policies and educating their people.
I mean, you'd think that for the board meeting, then YouTube also has a similar tool, so then they can just upload it onto their own YouTube channel where it's unlisted. And I mean, you think about how AI works. I mean, the reason why XAI is such a valuable product is because X is a free service, and then that way, and Grok is being trained off of everybody's tweets.
Yeah, well, and I think that goes to the speed that we're all moving on, right? That, as we talked about, that we're sort of on this ride, and we, what's the level of education, and how are people feeling with the awareness around what we're doing? Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just say the analogy I always use on that one is if you had your staff show up tomorrow morning, and let's say you're a business that sends people out in the field, and you have 10 new trucks in the parking lot, 10 new laptops sitting in the boardroom, because everybody's getting a new laptop and a new truck today. Which one of those does your business have more policy and understanding around acceptable use on?
That's funny.
Right? Like, I guarantee it's the truck. Right? We all know that you can't, speed and drive drunk and put your camper on the back of it and use it to move a friend, because at some point somewhere somebody, had a problem and they lost a truck. But yet we give people laptops and we just go, here.
Yeah.
But if they have a problem on the laptop, they can take our entire business down.
Yeah,
So without giving everything away, hire Jesse, by the way. But where would you say to start? Like, where should business owners start even when we're thinking about this?
People, education, people, policy. And I'm not a huge policy guy. Like, it drives me crazy. But you have to have those conversations with your employees. You have to educate them, and you have to have rules around it. Again, going back to the truck analogy, if you don't have a policy that says you can't use this truck on the weekend to go camping, well, then it sounds like you can use the truck to go camping. So you have to tell people what they are allowed and not allowed to do. And you either have to say you are explicitly allowed to use these tools, or you are explicitly not allowed to use these tools. And then it becomes, well, okay, once you educate people, now you have some, kind of expectations and some control over the situation. Doesn't mean they're not going to do it, but at least there's an understanding there.
This is so funny, Jesse. You should have been here yesterday because we had a panel with, it was an HR legal panel, so we had 3 HR lawyers that were on a panel. And basically, you could have been on the panel. It's so fascinating, right? And some of their stories that they were sharing and advice was around exactly the same place, right?
Yeah, so as much as AI is a new frontier in technology, it starts with your people and your policies and your processes, and then it gets into how we're going to use it.
Awesome. Okay, let's continue along and let's talk money. Because I think that's something that's on everyone's mind, right? And Solange, you sort of alluded to, right, who's leading the charge, which is these companies that have virtually limitless bank accounts, it feels like, right? And the investments that they're making are just numbers that are sort of beyond, I think, some of our comprehension. But you've also helped, I mean, I'll give you a plug now, you've helped to cut startup costs by, up to 50%. When I think about small businesses who are watching their budgets carefully, maybe what's some advice from where you're sitting that you would share with them as they think about where to invest in terms of AI and technology infrastructure?
Yeah, so I will say, there is some things which are non-negotiable, right? That you really need for your business, right? So that will be cybersecurity. Of course, you don't want to cut on password management, malware, softwares, or backups, right? That is non-negotiable. You have to have that for your business, and you will have to spend money for that. Of course, everything which is web hosting, accounting, there is some things you need to have in your tech stack, whatever you are using, QuickBooks or Wave or whatever, right? All those tools you need. Okay, so you will have 50% of your budget on the tech stack, which will be the non-negotiable tools. And after that, you will go to the next tier. And that is the world of Steve, where it's all about automation. What can I automate in my processes? Because you know your business better than anybody else, right? You are the expert of your own business. And you know where you are losing time, where you are losing money, because you say, okay, I want to do that faster. I'm spending way too much time doing this. Is there a tool out there which can help me to speed up the process? And that can be out-of-the-shelf tool, of course, because you don't want to start everything from scratch, right? So that doesn't make much sense. So there is so many things now, on those CRM, like Zoho and the others, they have AI implemented, and you have to be okay with their, of course, terms of services. So have a look, because if suddenly you have extremely sensitive data, I don't know, let's imagine you have a business extremely sensitive, and you are, okay, wait a minute, I cannot want my client data to be in the US, because it will be governed by US laws, not Canadian laws. I cannot live with that. So that means you will have to find a software existing here in Canada who are Canadian-owned, Canadian soil. But that is your job, basically, to say, okay, what is negotiable, what is not negotiable, right? So if you're okay saying, yeah, I'm a Google, for example, Google Suite shop boutique in my company, everything is on Google, so I'm comfortable to have all that in the US. It has always been like that. That's fine. So try to leverage the AI tool that Google has, because you are already comfortable with that. Right? So that will be, I will say, the next 30% of your budget is to try to find AI tools which help you. But the first question will be, is it cutting costs on time? Or so that means I'm doing something faster by using that tool. Don't use the nice to have, the shiny toys that we were speaking about, right? Now look really what will cost, remove time that all the time you are saving by doing it with AI tool, you can reinvest that with your clients or something which brings value to your clients, right? So that's the most important, is to understand what are the clunky processes you have in your own business and where you can cut time by using AI. Because if you cannot really find the return of investment by using an AI tool, then don't use it. And I think Steve is working on that with his clients all the time, right, is to figure it out, can you really measure the improvement you get by using that tool? If you build something, a nice shiny dashboard, and you are not using it 90% of the time, or the dashboard, you are not using it for doing decision, which improve the bottom line, that means your revenue, then scrape it, cancel the subscription, don't use that tool, done, finished, and you save time and money, right? So it's all about, you are the experts of your business, you will know where are the processes you have to improve, and after that, finding the right tool. And at the end, for the 10 last % of what you can spend on the tech stack, use it for experimentation. there is, as we said, there is new tools coming all the time. You still have to figure out, how those kind of tools for improving marketing, for improving other customer support, how can I use different tools? You can try it in the safe environment. Don't forget that you can use fake data. You don't need to use your data, which, you have to be careful what you put out there with your data governance. But you can generate fake data with those generative AI tools, okay? So you can go to ChatGPT saying, create fake data on this and this and that. This way you don't need to use your own tool to experiment, right? So, use them at your advantage by not compromising basically your proprietary data, your information. And I think that's basically where you can start to feel comfortable and saying, okay, I'm eliminating what is useless and I'm investing or reinvesting on what really changed my bottom line.
That's great. I hope somebody wrote down that breakdown. And you get 10% that you get to use on shiny new tools. So long gives permission. So 10% of the budget. You're still allowed to have fun with them. Jesse, you want to jump in, please?
Yeah, I was just going to say, one important thing about, from the big picture, most of the big AI companies are not profitable. They are burning billions of dollars betting essentially on this working. And they're all new businesses, the OpenAI and Anthropic and all of them. And so they are dependent on continuing to convince investors that there's an opportunity in front of them so that they can keep lighting their money on fire. Google was very late to the AI game. They essentially had an internal AI program, and then when ChatGPT came out, they went, oh my gosh, we are way behind. Scrap what we're doing, let's start over and bring out Gemini. And so it's really interesting because Gemini is essentially the only AI platform that at this point is self-funded. And Google is very much aware that in the marketing world, you'll see this, and everybody in here has been, is that they can use it to drive advertising dollars, right? And the more times you go in and you search on Google, the more of a profile it builds on you, which allows them to give more targeted, higher value per ad revenue than what they would have previously. So we're at a really interesting point to see what happens. How much money does OpenAI get to burn every year compared to Google?
Actually, Jason, any thoughts from your perspective? So when we're thinking about cost savings, and just you obviously work with clients that have tight budgets, and when it comes to talking about some of these tools, I'd love to maybe hear from yourself. Just how does that conversation go, and what are you chatting with them about from the benefit of making this investment, right?
Yeah, I'm shiny object guy, right? So I'm the one who chases these trials and signs up like crazy. Yeah, and so I have to temper my own self, and when I'm communicating with clients, I'm telling them to be extremely conservative, because I've been there, paved the way, and caused the ruckus where my finance person comes back later. So but I think there's an element that has to play. You have to play to find out, is this a useful tool? So I'll give you one example that I use on Scrap. I thought, I'm going to mass produce some AI generated social media content. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to replicate myself. It's going to talk for me. I'm going to feed it a script. It's going to be everything that I want it to be, and it's going to be Jason in a box AI. And we got close, but I don't like it. I don't like how my mouth moves with the AI. I could tell it's AI. And despite the editing beyond that, it just doesn't work. And then it's easy to sign up for the single license, and then it has a model will then add your staff members. And all of a sudden you're into the business version that costs triple or quadruple the amount of the single license. And you're thinking, okay, is this really worth it? Is the return on investment there? And ultimately we decided no, it's just not a useful tool for us and as far as what it was producing, so we scrapped it. But that's just an example of trying and then making sure that you're going behind it with the financial audit saying, okay, when are you going to cancel that license, right? Because they do renew automatically.
Yeah. They've got your credit card. So thinking about small business, and Jesse, maybe I'll put this to you first. Small business owners, a lot of them are wearing a lot of us in this room are wearing multiple hats, right? There is no dedicated IT staff, much less it's sort of like the few hours of the week that maybe someone can scrounge together to think about the technology systems that they're using when they're small companies. What would be your advice? Where to even start? You don't have the expertise, you don't necessarily have the people power. How do you even begin to start thinking about this?
Well, I think you have to take a look at your workday and figure out what are you doing that you hate, that is mundane and boring, repetitive, because those are the things that if you can eliminate or streamline, it's going to first of all make you hopefully enjoy your work a little bit more. And if you're truly a small business and you're in that growth phase, you don't have this big machine behind you. It's easier to design and implement those things when you're small in a lot of cases. So that's where I would start. I would start tracking my time every day and look for the things that annoy me.
I appreciate that. And maybe, Jason, you go ahead, sorry. No.
Yeah, my challenge to my staff this year, just because of that whole spectrum of people, like, and some are early adopters, was to challenge them with one question and just simply say, everything that you do in the day, I want you to just ask, could AI help me with this? And it might be no, but it might be yes. And then we have an acceptable use framework policy that we've educated our staff on as far as what they can use, what can't they use, how do they sign up for new stuff, how do they learn the new stuff. So all of that's in place. But I want to give them some leash or runway to play a little bit, because my challenge to them beyond that was, I want you to save 30% of your workday using AI by the end of this year. So everything that you produce, I want it done with 30% more efficiency. And Solange mentioned, some of this, it can get you 50% there, 60% there. Well, if it can save on a 25-hour report generation, and I can cut that back to 5, which we've done, that's phenomenal, right? And then I can refine it in a couple hours, and we've got a really good product there that we've just saved almost 50% on that one example. And then other things we won't be able to save the same one, or we'll need to bring somebody like Steve in to help us automate more to get more efficiency out of it.
Right.
Eventually you tap the resource from that phase 1. But that's just an example of where I've challenged my staff.
Yes, Steve, do you have anything to add?
I guess just to add on what Jesse and Jason said, I like the challenge of, can AI solve this? It's a great question. And also think very micro scale. I think often with AI, because it's so overwhelming, we tend to think, oh, I can use AI to replace this whole big process. And sometimes it's as simple as, can it just help me do task A better every day? And it really brings it down to a level that it's like, yeah, I actually can do that. And then you do the next thing and the next thing, and you just sort of compound a whole bunch of small tasks that ends up being a huge time saver across your workload and your business's workload.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna pose a question to the whole group. Solange, maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll move through. So think about, you're having maybe a conversation with someone even right after this. Someone, a business owner, is asking for advice on their technology strategy for, say, the next 2 to 3 years. What is a piece of advice that you would give them on something that they shouldn't wait on? Versus, there's a lot. We talked about big shiny objects. There's so many places you can go. What would be sort of your, don't wait on this. This is the thing I think that's going to be most impactful. And obviously, from each of your vantage points, I'll ask each of you the same question.
Yes, well, I will say at the moment, for sure, the LLMs, right? So the ChatGPT of the world and things like that, they are really decent, I will say, to create content, right? So implement that in your marketing campaigns, implement that in your sales, customer supports, and those kind of things, because everything which is text generated is pretty good. But of course, you need to have oversight of humans checking that it's done properly, because there is still problems which hasn't been solved, which may be solved in the future, but there is always limitations. So I will say not to wait on that, because everybody is already doing it. so
get on the bus right
now.
Get
on the bus, yeah.
left.
Because when I'm saying that it's always, I just said that it's nice to play around shiny objects or whatever. It's all about learning, building knowledge. you know, and you cannot wait for that. Don't wait for that. You know, you have to be exposed to those different tools, and you will discover yourself the limitation. You will see, but that's terrible. Yeah, sometimes it is, okay? So, and it's not your prompt. Everybody, you just suck at prompt. No, it's not the prompt. It's the tool itself, okay? So I think it's important to have that exposure. So I really like the fact that you are challenging your staff to think how they can basically use those tools to improve the way they are working, but stay critical on the tools can have flaws and issues, and it's not your capability of using that tool, it's the tool itself. But I think it's if we create that knowledge by using those different capabilities, we will be better equipped in the future where the next technology is coming to understand, okay, that is the new thing, they solve that problem, but that problem still exists. I think, you know, gathering the knowledge and experience, that cannot wait.
Steve, what about yourself?
Similar vein, you know, I find a lot of people, because AI again is overwhelming, you can sit around and plan for hours and days and weeks how you're going to use it, what you're going to do. And in the meantime, you could have just grabbed something, tried to use AI or tried to use automation, and like Solange said, either it works or it doesn't work. And if it works, it's a winner, and if it's not, you pick something else. You know, I would challenge yourself and your team in the company. Work on a 1 to 2 week time frame. You know, ask a question. To Jason's point, can I use AI to improve this task? And yeah, try to improve it in the next week or two. Don't let it grow weeds and become a multi-month project. And if that is the case, you have to find a task that's too big to actually move quickly and have high impact. You'd rather have a whole bunch of small automations and AI use cases stack up in your favor than one big one, I would say.
I'm going to go non-technical on this. You know, just consider if you were starting a competitor to yourself today. What would that business look like with the tools that are available to us today? So I probably would sit with my team and just ask that question and say, you know, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but you know, we should really be thinking about how do we build a better version of our business. So in my peer group, we do a thing called a clean sheet of paper every couple of years, where we envision if 5 years ago someone had cut me a big fat check and my non-compete's over, right? I'm ready to start new today. What would I do differently? And you know, challenge people and look at it from that perspective.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll also go non-tech. How many people in the room hate being wrong? We've all grown up in school.
Laura, get your hand up.
But we've grown up and we get graded, right? This plus this equals that. This was right, this was wrong. What we need to entrench in the new version of workforce is this critical thinking and the ability to fail forward. And the ability to try and experiment with tech when they don't really know exactly what's going on. Entrepreneurs are really good at that. They like playing in the new, they like playing in the sandbox. That's fine. Engineers, finance, regulated industries, not so much. It's suspect, right? And so there is a lot of encouragement, and I would think even, like this is where I'm challenging my staff, is it's okay to fail forward. Try, and maybe the output sucks, no problem. Try something else, use it somewhere else. Find use cases where you get a win, and use AI as that strategic thinking partner, as your helpmate, no matter what you're doing, because it is literally a business coach, a marketing coach, social media coach, life coach, whatever you need at your fingertips that you can use as a soundboard for a lot of the things that are in your life. So, but we have to use it with critical thought.
Yeah.
It doesn't replace you. You got to be able to use it.
So use our own brains as well.
Yeah.
Can I just add one
Yes,
thing?
Solange, of course.
It doesn't need to be expensive neither, right? There is a lot of free subscription you can use, even ChatGPT. You don't need the pro version. 80% can already be done with the free version, okay? So don't be afraid to say, oh my God, I don't have the budget to experiment, to play around, to do this and that. there is so much freebies out there. Of course, there is limitations, but they do already a pretty good job, right? But please don't put sensitive data in it, okay? So it's free, yes, but I'm just saying that it should not, budget should not be a barrier to start learning how it works, what are the limitations, and building also confidence. Saying, okay, now I know how it works. Now I can see how I can use this, right? So I will say, when we have a certain budget for those shiny toys, yeah, try the free tier first. If you see it's really moving the needle and it have a return of investment, then start to put users, because they will make you pay per user per month. So you have to be sure, do I need 6 users on this? And say, no, maybe 2, right?
You're a 3-person business. I don't know.
See, if your team is 6 people and you have everybody who has a license on something, well, really, does all your staff need to be on this tool, right? I mean, you cut where it's not needed, and use for free first to experiment with, random data that you can, generate with generative AI or something like that, right? So no risk. I like the sandbox. We are also a sandbox, so that's great. But a safe environment where you can try and fail. I like that because it's really important.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I want to be mindful of time, and I know we wanted to leave with some concrete examples of what folks can do. And so thank you for those shares. But I'm going to do one more lightning round because it's funny. The panel that we're chatting earlier, just around when it comes to AI, there's so much, I think, aspirational element. There's so much that's moving so fast, but making sure that we had some good concrete examples. But the passion from the 4 of you is just so evident. So I just want to throw a question out. Maybe Jason, you go first, and then we'll move through. What are you excited about right now, like in this field? Like just personally, what gets you the most excited at this moment? Just to kind of leave us with a little inspiration, something not concrete as well.
Something not concrete.
Or, yeah, it doesn't have to be,
Yeah, because it scares the pants off me too.
Glad you said it first.
Yeah. I get excited about the new, right? And so I have that entrepreneur mindset. I'm the visionary. That's the role I play in my organization. So I get excited when I see the capabilities, the efficiencies gained through using the tools, what it can do just for random stuff. An example is a social media post, just something as simple as that. I had a photo of a lighthouse that I just took last week, and I knew I wanted to relay that somehow on LinkedIn using a marketing strategy allegory, just put this in. So it 5 minutes or less, right? And I've got it. So that excites me because it saves me time, and I like saving myself time. So really, it's the time efficiency that jazzes me up, and the things that I see. Not necessarily person organization, because it's probably making me worse at that, but definitely finding the data and summarizing it for me. I feel it's a time saver. That's what jazzes me up.
I like that. Jesse, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that maybe excites me is that it should, when implemented, allow people to spend more time talking with people. Get us out of this whole, staring at screens all the time. So as an example, I was heading out to meet with a new prospect, and I just dropped into the chat and said, hey, I'm going to meet with this person. What should I know? And I mean, it pulled all kinds of stuff that I would have had to spend, a lot of time looking for.
Perfect.
And not only that, but I have an agent that we've built around our kind of core values and our sales processes and all that kind of stuff. And I can ask it in that context. I'm going to meet with this person. Here's my transcription from my phone call that I had or my meeting I had with them last week. What are the top 3 things that I should be bringing up? Because I don't do a great job of taking notes and sitting afterwards and reviewing them and thinking about it. And boom, boom, boom. Okay, great. Let's make sure we hit the things that are important to you.
I like that. Steve, what about you?
First off, I have to confirm, did I hear Jason as the marketer use the word allegory in your description of the picture of the lighthouse?
Yeah.
That is a true marketer term.
It absolutely is, yeah.
No one else in the room would have dropped allegory in the sentence.
With that on the bingo cards as well, the
That
word
was one of the
allegory.
bingo cards.
No.
what excites me most is, this is going to sound strange in a way, but think back 30 years ago when the internet was just kind of becoming a thing, and it took 30 years to really become exciting and be pushed to its maximum. It's like we have a redo, and AI is like that. It's the start of a whole new era, but we're not going to have to wait 30 years. Like, we're talking 5 years from now, we're going to have that same 30-year cycle we had in the internet. So it's exciting because it's like when kids study genetics and they study fruit flies because they mate so often, so you get lots of genetic cycles. Like, we're going to get 30 years worth of internet in 5 years, which is super exciting. It's like we'll actually see real-time history without waiting 30 years.
Love that. Solange.
Yeah, I think really, to summarize all what has been said, which is very true, I think at this moment in time, we will not have to do all those mundane tasks. The stuff we hate, seriously, we all do stuff we hate. We all do stuff we think it brings no value, it's just paperwork or anything like that. So, I mean, those new tools will help us to free our time to do what humans do best. Creativity, stuff which are unique to us, right? If it can be automatized, because there is a difference between automation and AI agent, that's two different things. So I will say we can automatize more. We'll have still be a little bit careful with AI agent because they are still not quite there. But all those automation tools will allow us to free up our time to do what we are good at as human, right? Interaction with other humans, brainstorming, stuff which are not already existing and writing. We have to write the future, right? And that doesn't exist. The LLM is just trained on past historic data, right? It's not, trained on future and concept or idea. That's us. So I think I'm excited about that. I'm excited that finally all the stuff which are just time suckers, I will be able to eliminate that from my everyday life, and after that I can invent stuff which really matters.
Oh, I love that. What a beautiful notion, Solange. We still have to write the future, right? You're a rocket scientist and a poet, I think, over here. What can't she do? That's a whole nother panel, I'm sure. Well, I want to say thank you. I know I've gone a little bit over. I'm holding the panel hostage because I'm just so excited with this discussion, but we will release you. But I just want to say a massive, massive thank you all for being here so much and for sharing with us. This has been spectacular. So we have another session coming up shortly that Jesse is going to be leading, and it's a Bulletproof Your Business session on cybersecurity. It's essentially an interactive workshop on a cybersecurity risk that's going to be happening starting at 1:30. I know some of you are signed up for that. Now there is still some space too. If anyone is interested, please let us know, and we can get you registered for that session as we continue with the rest of our Tech and Innovation Day. But just thank you all to our panelists so much. Really appreciate you for being here.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, everyone.